I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who'd let a man humiliate me in front of my entire company. But there I was, standing at the bar during our annual tech gala in downtown San Francisco, champagne glass frozen halfway to my lips, listening to my husband tell my coworkers that he only married me because nobody else would have me. "You know, Sarah?" Brad's voice carried across the marble floor. He had his arms slung around my colleague Mike's shoulder, that charming smile plastered on his face. She was so desperate when I met her. Working 80 hours a week at this place, no social life, no friends. I honestly felt bad for her. I should have walked away. I should have said something. But my feet wouldn't move. I figured, hey, at least now she has someone, right? Brad laughed, louder now. The whiskey had loosened his tongue. Plus, that tech salary? Best investment I ever made. These Silicon Valley girls, man, they're so insecure. Give them a little attention, and they'll hand over their credit card. Mike looked uncomfortable, scanning the room like he was searching for an exit. But Brad kept going. She actually thinks I love her. I love her money. He slapped his knee. Smart, right? A few people nearby laughed. Awkward, uncertain laughs, but they laughed. That's when something inside me broke. Or maybe it finally healed. I'm still not sure. Let me back up. I need to tell you how I got here. 5 years ago, I was a junior software engineer at a mid-sized tech company in the Bay Area. I'd just moved from Ohio, fresh out of college, determined to make it in Silicon Valley. My apartment in the Mission District cost more than my parents' mortgage, and I lived on ramen and coffee, pouring everything into my career. That's when I met Brad at a networking event. He was charming, confident, everything I wasn't. He owned his own startup, he said. Tech consulting. He wore expensive suits and talked about disrupting industries and changing the world. I was 27 and lonely in a city where everyone seemed to have their life figured out except me. When Brad asked me out, I felt like I'd won some kind of lottery. Our first date was magical. He took me to this rooftop restaurant with views of the Golden Gate Bridge. He asked about my work, my dreams, my childhood in Cleveland. He listened, really listened. Or so I thought. "You're different," he told me that night. "Most women in tech, they're so cold, so competitive. But you're warm, real." I fell for it. I fell for him. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. By then, I'd been promoted twice. I was making $75,000 a year, which felt like all the money in the world. Brad's startup, meanwhile, kept hitting temporary setbacks. "It's just the market," he'd explain whenever I gently asked about his business. "Tech funding is tight right now, but we're so close to breaking through." I believed him. I wanted to believe him. When he proposed, he did it at the same rooftop restaurant where we'd had our first date. It was romantic. It was perfect. All my coworkers were envious. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony in Napa Valley. His family came from back east. My parents flew in from Ohio. Mom pulled me aside before the ceremony. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered. "He's very charming." "What's that supposed to mean?" She hesitated. "Just keep your bank account separate, honey, just in case." I laughed it off. My mother was old-fashioned, paranoid about divorce statistics. Brad loved me. He'd never hurt me. The first year of marriage was fine. Good, even. We rented a 1-bedroom apartment in the Mission, walking distance from my office. I'd come home from 12-hour days to find Brad on the couch, working on his laptop. "How's the startup?" I'd ask. "Getting there," he'd say, barely looking up. "These things take time." I paid for rent. I paid for groceries. I paid for everything, really. But that's what partners do, right? We support each other. His business would take off eventually, and then we'd be set. The second year, things started shifting. I got promoted to mid-level engineer. My salary jumped to $95,000. Brad's startup needed to pivot, which apparently meant starting from scratch. "I just need some capital to bridge the gap," he told me over dinner one night. "Maybe 5,000? Just until the next funding round." I transferred it the next day. A month later, he needed another 3,000 for equipment, then 2,000 for marketing materials, then 4,000 for a crucial business trip. I started feeling anxious every time I checked our joint account. The balance kept shrinking. But whenever I brought it up, Brad would get defensive. "Are you saying you don't believe in me?" His voice would go cold. After everything I've sacrificed for this marriage? What have you sacrificed? I asked once. Wrong question. My time. My emotional energy. Do you know how hard it is being married to someone who works all the time? I'm here. Alone. Supporting your career. While mine suffers. The least you can do is support me financially. I apologized. I always apologized. The third year, I got promoted again, senior engineer. $8,500 a month. My boss said I was on track for tech lead within 2 years. I came home excited to tell Brad. I found him on the couch with his laptop, as always. They promoted me, I announced. Senior engineer. He barely looked up. Cool. What's for dinner? That night, $2,000 disappeared from our joint account. Emergency, Brad said when I asked. Car repair. But when I checked the garage the next morning, our Honda looked fine. I called the mechanic. No recent service appointments. I started paying attention. Over the next 2 weeks, I noticed things. Shopping receipts left in his jacket pocket. Women's clothing from Bloomingdale's, sizes I'd never worn. Jewelry from Tiffany's that never appeared on my dresser. Restaurant charges for 2 at places we'd never been together. Surprise for you, Brad said when I asked about the Tiffany charge. $5,000. Don't ruin it by being nosy. My best friend Maya, who worked in the cubicle next to mine, finally cornered me in the break room. Sarah, I have to tell you something. She looked genuinely pained. I saw Brad at Zuni Cafe last week. He was with a woman. Young, blonde, they were close. My stomach dropped. Maybe it was a business meeting. They were holding hands. I wanted to confront him immediately. I wanted to scream and throw things and demand answers. But something stopped me. Some instinct told me to be quiet, to watch, to gather evidence. That night, I pretended nothing was wrong. I made dinner. I smiled. I asked about his day. Fine, Brad said, scrolling on his phone. Busy, stressful. After he fell asleep, I carefully took his phone from the nightstand. I knew his password. He'd never hidden it from me. Why would he? I was his trusting wife. The messages made me nauseous. Amber, saved under business contact. When are you leaving her? I'm tired of being your secret. Brad. Soon, babe. I promise. Just need to set things up financially first. One more big withdrawal and we're set. Amber, you said that last month. Brad, trust me, this tech girl makes bank. I just need to drain a bit more, then I'm done. There were others too. Rachel. Jennifer. Texts going back months. Years, maybe. I carefully put his phone back and lay awake until morning. The next day at work, I called a lawyer during my lunch break. Melissa Harding, recommended by Maya. She specialized in divorce cases involving financial abuse. Document everything, she told me. Every transaction, every message, every lie. And whatever you do, don't let him know you're onto him. Men like this, when they feel cornered, they escalate. I spent the next 3 weeks in stealth mode. I installed a monitoring app on our shared iPad, the one Brad used when his phone was charging. I took photos of credit card statements. I opened a separate bank account at a different bank and started transferring my paychecks there, telling Brad my company was having direct deposit issues. The messages between Brad and Amber got more frequent, more explicit. They were planning a future together. With my money, then I discovered the loan application. I got an email from our bank. Congratulations! Your personal loan application for $60,000 has been approved pending final signature verification. I hadn't applied for any loan. I called the bank immediately. A cheerful representative explained that my husband had submitted the application using both our incomes as co-signers. The paperwork had my signature on it. Can you fax me a copy? I asked, my voice shaking. 20 minutes later, I was staring at my forged signature. Brad had traced it, probably from old tax documents. It wasn't even a good forgery. This is fraud, Melissa said when I called her. File a police report. Now. I did. Detective Martinez took my statement at the station downtown. He looked tired, probably overworked, but his eyes sharpened when I showed him the forged documents. We'll investigate, he said. In the meantime, freeze your credit, change all your passwords, and whatever you do, don't tip him off. That brings me back to the gala. The night of the event, I'd actually been feeling hopeful. Brad had been sweet that morning, bringing me coffee in bed, kissing my forehead. "You look beautiful," he said as I got ready in my navy cocktail dress. Maybe I was wrong about everything. Maybe the messages could be explained. Maybe the loan was a misunderstanding. Then I heard him at the bar, destroying any remaining hope I had. "She actually thinks I love her. I love her money." I stood there for maybe 30 seconds. It felt like hours. Then I turned and walked to the bathroom, my heels clicking on the marble floor. In the bathroom stall, I sat on the closed toilet lid and cried. Silent, furious tears. My phone buzzed. "Maya, where are you? Are you okay?" Bathroom, second floor. She found me 5 minutes later. I told her everything. The affair. The money. The loan. The plan. "That son of a bitch," Maya breathed. "What are you going to do?" I wiped my tears, fixed my makeup in the mirror, and straightened my shoulders. "I'm going to end him." I stayed at the gala another 2 hours. I smiled, I networked, I laughed at my boss's jokes. Brad didn't even notice I'd overheard him. He was too busy drinking whiskey and glad-handing with people he thought could help his fictional career. When we got home, he passed out immediately, still in his suit. I stayed up all night. First, I changed every password. Bank accounts, credit cards, email, social media, everything. I transferred every remaining penny from our joint account to my private account. I froze our joint credit cards. Second, I sent a detailed email to Amber with screenshots of Brad's messages to Rachel and Jennifer. Subject line, "Thought you should know you're not the only one." Third, I emailed my company's HR department with a formal complaint about Brad's behavior at the gala. I named witnesses. I explained that his comments had created a hostile environment and requested that he be banned from future company events. Fourth, I sent Melissa all the documentation she needed to file for divorce first thing Monday morning. Finally, I packed a bag and checked into a hotel near the office. Brad woke up to a new reality. His phone exploded with angry messages from Amber, who'd apparently shared my email with Rachel and Jennifer. All 3 women were now comparing notes and collectively losing their minds. He tried to access our bank accounts. Denied. He tried to use our credit cards. Declined. He called me 17 times. I didn't answer. Finally, around noon, I sent him a single text. "We're done. Enjoy the fraud investigation." He showed up at my office building that afternoon, but security wouldn't let him up. Apparently, HR had already processed the ban. The divorce moved quickly. Melissa was ruthless. In California, financial fraud during marriage is taken very seriously, especially when it involves forged signatures on loan documents. Brad tried to fight it at first. His lawyer sent strongly worded letters about how I was overreacting, how this was all a misunderstanding, how Brad deserved half of everything I'd earned during our marriage. Then Detective Martinez arrested him for fraud and identity theft. Suddenly, Brad's lawyer was advising him to settle the divorce immediately and quietly. Admitting to financial abuse in divorce court could be used against him in the criminal case. We settled in 8 weeks. I kept everything. He walked away with nothing except pending criminal charges. The loan fraud charges were eventually reduced to a misdemeanor in a plea deal. Brad got 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and a permanent record. The judge also ordered him to pay restitution, which, given his lack of income, meant he'd be on a payment plan for the next decade. Amber, Rachel, and Jennifer all blocked him, apparently after comparing notes and realizing he'd told each of them the same lies about leaving his wife soon. His startup, which never existed in the first place, officially dissolved. He moved back east to live with his parents. Last I heard, he was working retail. As for me, 6 months after the divorce finalized, I got promoted to tech lead, $95,000 a year plus stock options and bonuses. My take-home was now over $12,000 a month. I moved into a gorgeous 1-bedroom apartment in Hayes Valley, with a view of the bay. I adopted a rescue dog named Charlie. I started going to therapy to work through why I'd stayed so long, why I'd let someone treat me that way. My therapist, Dr. Wong, helped me understand something important. I'd been raised to be accommodating, to make myself small, to believe that my worth came from being useful to others. Brad had seen that vulnerability and exploited it. "The fact that you finally stood up for yourself," Dr. Wong said, "that's enormous growth." One evening, about 8 months after the divorce, I was at a tech conference in San Jose. I'd just given a presentation on machine learning applications in healthcare. It went well. People asked questions, exchanged business cards, seemed genuinely interested in my work. Afterward, a man approached me at the networking reception. Tall, dark hair starting to gray at the temples, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Daniel Chen," he said, extending his hand. "Your presentation was brilliant. I'm working on something similar for medical diagnostics." We talked for 20 minutes about neural networks and training datasets and ethical AI. He was smart, funny, easy to talk to. He asked about my research, my process, my ideas. Not once did he ask about my relationship status or make any comment about my appearance or suggest drinks at his hotel. When the conversation naturally wound down, he handed me his business card. "I'd love to continue this discussion sometime. Coffee? Strictly professional. I think our companies might benefit from collaboration." I took the card. "I'd like that." As he walked away, Maya appeared at my elbow. She'd been watching from across the room. "Please tell me you got his number." "Business card," I said, smiling. "Same thing." "He looked at you like you hung the moon," Maya observed. And not in a creepy way, in a, "I'm genuinely impressed by your intelligence" way. "We'll see," I said. But I was smiling. Daniel and I got coffee 3 weeks later, then dinner, then a weekend trip to Monterey. We took things slowly. I was honest with him from the start about my divorce, about Brad, about my trust issues. "I understand," he said. "I'm not in a rush. I like you, Sarah. The real you. The one who nerds out about code and rescues shelter dogs and gives brilliant presentations. Your ex was an idiot. He married me for my money," I said. Testing him. Waiting for judgment. "Then he was an idiot and a criminal," Daniel said firmly. "You know what I noticed about you? When you give presentations, you light up. You're passionate, brilliant, generous with your knowledge. That's what attracted me. Not your salary. You. We've been together a year now. He still makes me coffee every morning. He still asks about my work. He still treats me like an equal partner, not a bank account. Last week, he asked me to move in with him. Separate bank accounts, split rent fairly based on our incomes, everything transparent and discussed. "I want to build something with you," he said. "But I want it to be ours. Built on respect and honesty. Not what you had before." I said yes. Sometimes I think about Brad. I wonder if he ever really loved me, or if it was always about the money. I wonder if he tells himself I was the villain in our story, the cold tech girl who ruined his life. But mostly, I don't think about him at all. What I think about is this. That night at the gala, when I heard him tell his friends he'd married me out of pity because nobody else wanted me, something crystallized in my mind. He was wrong. He didn't marry me out of pity. He married me out of greed. And I divorced him out of self-respect. Best decision I ever made. These days, when I look in the mirror, I see someone different, someone stronger, someone who knows her worth isn't determined by whether a man wants her or not. Someone who won't settle for crumbs of affection mixed with abuse. I built my own life. I saved myself, and that's a better ending than any man could have given me. If you're in a relationship where someone makes you feel small, where someone uses you, where someone tells you that you're lucky they chose you, listen to me. You're not lucky. You're being exploited, and you deserve better. I almost stayed. I almost believed him. I almost let him destroy me financially and emotionally because I was afraid of being alone. But being alone turned out to be the beginning of finding myself. Sometimes the person who breaks your heart is actually giving you permission to save your own life. Brad thought he was so smart, marrying the desperate tech girl with no social life. What he didn't count on was that desperate tech girl growing a spine. When he told his friends I was desperate, that nobody else wanted me, he was describing himself. He was desperate, desperate enough to fake love for a paycheck, desperate enough to forge documents, desperate enough to think I'd never figure it out. I did figure it out. And I ended it. And I won. 3 years from now, I'll probably be a senior tech lead, maybe even an engineering manager. I'll still have Charlie. I'll probably still be with Daniel, or maybe I won't, but either way I'll be okay. I'll have my career, my friends, my self-respect. And Brad? He'll still be paying off restitution and working retail and wondering where he went wrong. The answer is simple. He went wrong the moment he thought he could marry someone out of pity and get away with it. Nobody marries anybody out of pity. They marry them for love or for money or for citizenship or for companionship. Brad married me for money while telling me it was pity. I divorced him for freedom while showing him it was strength. And that made all the difference.